I'm curious, as I look into this audience, how many of you in this audience have actually suffered a stroke? A few names. It's hard for me to see in the light, but I see some names, or some hands. How many of you know somebody that's close to you who has experienced yeah, there you are. Well, tonight I'm going to talk to you about my process of having a stroke, my recovery from it, and my reflections and learnings so far. Now, this is a daunting task, as I am a Nebraska girl, cornbred and corn-fed, and I was taught never to talk about myself or about my health. But I hope that my story will help you understand the need to recognize your symptoms early. And if you're having a stroke, seek help immediately. Secondly, I hope to help to understand how you can recover from a brain attack, even though I know from my own work, each person does it differently. And I hope that I can help you understand how to work with somebody who's had a stroke. Well, many people have asked me, how did I know I was having a stroke? Well, my answer for 1 whole year after having the stroke was exactly what I'm about to say to you. I awoke at 3:45 in the morning and went to the bathroom. When I passed in front of the mirror, I saw that my right eye looked funny. Incidentally, one of my son's friends once said to me, did the stroke cause you to go to the bathroom? Yeah, some of you get it. I repeated back, no, honey, when you're my age, you go to the bathroom at 3:45. And anyway, I went back to bed for another half an hour, but I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up again, thinking, well, I'll do some email. And I went into the den, and I couldn't open the laptop on my computer. So I thought, well, I must be tired. So I went back to bed again. After another half an hour, I still haven't gone to sleep, so I think I'll go back and check this eye thing again. So I went back into the bathroom, looked at the eye, and at that moment I thought, I think I'm having a stroke. So I went back into the bedroom, nudged my husband, and in my mind I clearly said, Armstead, I believe I'm having a stroke. Will you take me to the hospital? Now, I was pretty sure that he was going to start asking questions or would tell me that I'm being paranoid. But instead, he leaped out of bed and went into the closet and started getting dressed. And then he went to get the car. Well, I then went to the closet wondering, I wonder what I should wear. I'm never somebody who ever worries about what I'm going to wear, but it seemed like an important thing. And it was the middle of October, so I decided I'd wear a turtleneck and a sweater. And then I attempted to brush my teeth, but I kept dropping the toothbrush because my right arm just wasn't working. And then I got really annoyed because I couldn't control my arm. Well, one time, about 1 year later, my husband heard me tell this story. And he said, that's not what happened. He said, you came into the bedroom and you didn't say, I believe I'm having a stroke. I need you to take me to the hospital. Instead, you said, mushy, gushy, mushy, gashy, mushy. To this day, I am still astounded in our different interpretations of that. Even though rationally I know that his version is probably right, in my head, I still believe I was speaking rationally. Well, the first hospital we entered was close to our home, but the emergency doctor believed that I should actually transfer to Swedish Hospital in Denver, which specializes in strokes. He then took a CAT scan, gave me an aspirin, and put me in an ambulance, and off we went to Swedish with the admonition that I should have called 911 earlier. Well, I'd never been in an ambulance before, and I was kind of disappointed that the sirens were not blaring. And maybe they were, I just didn't hear them. And the car wasn't exactly weaving in and out. And I figured if I was going to do this, I at least ought to get my money's worth. Well, anyway, I was also wondering about my husband, who was, I think, in the car behind us. And I was hoping that he would call Carol, my friend, with whom I walked with every morning, and to tell her that I would not be at our usual meeting place. I was also interested in the emergency man taking care of me. I kept asking him questions like, did he like his job, and did he have a family, and what kind of hours did he work? Well, he never actually answered any of my questions, but he did talk to me. And so I concluded that I was speaking clearly, but he was just unwilling to answer my questions. While I was in the emergency room, I was on the gurney, and Armstead stood to the right of me, and he was talking to Dr. Smith, who was to my left. Now, Dr. Smith, turns out, he was on call that day, but it turns out he's a well-known stroke expert in the field. And Armstead leaned over my torso and whispered to the doctor, "My wife is an expert on the brain. You must be very careful about what you say to her." Well, I was horrified. I knew that Dr. Smith would ask me about my expertise, and I was sure that he, a neurologist, would think that my work was nothing more than cosmic woo-woo psychobabble. And sure enough, eventually he looked at me and he said, "Well, what is it exactly that you do?" I attempted then to answer him, and then realized for the first time from Dr. Smith's reaction that I wasn't speaking recognizable English. He then replied, "Okay, you don't have to tell me now, but in the future you will." And as I look back, I realized that was the beginning of my recovery. Well, I have several reflections. Here's my first reflection. When I look back on it, I should have called the ambulance immediately. You've already heard this tonight. They would have given me oxygen as well as an aspirin tablet, taken me directly to Swedish, and got me on a clot-busting drug. Every second counts, and I spent a lot of time looking for my email. Well, I wished that I had done that, but you know, life happens. Well, I was in the ICU for a couple of days while the doctors and other attendants kept asking me those questions. You know, like, "Do you know where you are?" "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm in the hospital." But the question that irritated me the most was the one, "What is the name of the current president of the United States?"